Paternity Court came to the cultural headlines in the 90s when the original paternity gangster Maury Povich made the phrase, "You are not the father," ring out in households all over the land.
You are not the father.
The concept empowered individuals, especially men, who were in doubt when coins were being deducted from paychecks.
My checks have been garnished. Can't pay rent. I can't do nothing. I don't have a life.
They had a right to know.
I don't know if I'm her dad or not.
Thankfully, Paternity Court is there to help.
They call me Your Honor, but it is truly my honor.
We've seen some bad and good endings in cases like these.
I don't care what it is they do. This man is my father.
That being said, prepare to dine on a full course serving of utter abush.
He let everybody in his ear. He doesn't have a brain for himself.
Mr. Houston, do you think for yourself?
No.
You don't. Who thinks for you?
Yes, you do, honey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, my son thinks for himself.
As we indulge, tissues in one hand and glass of red in the other, on the case of Benny versus Bodine. We first see Jermaine in couples court alongside his wife, Kayla.
You believe that she's cheating on you?
Yes, sir.
Jermaine is distraught.
My mother passed away when I was 14 years old, and it just left me like real lost, real lonely.
He has known since day one that Kayla was all he would ever want and need.
I met Kayla, and I was the one, you know?
He shares having lost his mother at 14.
It just left me like real lost, real lonely.
And that from then on, he planned to create a happy home with a wife and children.
One thing I've always wanted is a kid, you know? I just felt like finally that hole, I filled it.
Kayla, however, isn't moved, and she is 1,000% certain that she hasn't violated anything by getting her needs met.
Are you cheating?
No, Your Honor.
Kayla says the two were on and off.
We was broken up. We was in a rocky spot.
I don't
can
care.
do
How is
whatever
that
I want
not
if
wrong?
we was broken up.
And between all these breaks, Kayla finds out she's pregnant.
It's not cheating if we wasn't together.
Fast forward to Kayla's delivery of baby number 1.
I received a text message while I'm in the hospital. I'm sitting across from Kayla, who's in labor, telling me that the baby is not mine.
Jermaine receives a text message from a stranger.
That Kayla has been out, she's been sleeping with him. I'm in the hospital with her.
Kayla vehemently denies that the baby she's just given birth to is anyone else's but Jermaine.
So this ex still has feelings for you?
He wants to be with me, Your Honor. He's trying to get us to argue so he can break us up and have me, and I don't want that.
She turns the situation back on him, accusing him of trying to break up their happy home.
I have never talked to this man why me and Mr. Benning was together.
Jermaine counters, pulling out some very juicy receipts in the form of text messages from Kayla to said sneaky link.
But I want daddy's blank.
It's talking. Talking and doing is two different things. Am I right?
Now, Kayla, you make it clear to your sneaky link that you have a vitamin D deficiency. What are we supposed to think?
I never had sex with anybody else.
Even still, with a straight face, Kayla creates an alternate reality.
Why should I not be upset?
I mean, you have a right to be, but then you really don't because we wasn't together.
And since she and Jermaine were on that little break, she feels she did no wrong.
Whose idea was it to take a break?
Yes,
Because he's saying you weren't on a break.
we was.
You just left.
Jermaine has had enough. Kayla has taken a lie detector test, and before the results are revealed, Jermaine says it will be done, over, finished if Kayla is found out to be lying.
If she's cheating, I'm done.
So, here we go.
Miss Bodine, you testified that since your daughter was born, you have not had sex with any other man.
Envelope, please.
Have you had sex with any other man since your daughter was born?
On our break, yes, I have.
Lord, Lord, Lord.
You are playing word game. Own your mistakes. Stop saying I was on a break.
Poor Jermaine. He's devastated.
You slept with another guy while I was taking care of our daughter. And I don't want to have anything to do with me anymore.
But wait, there's more. Enter Judge Lauren Lakes.
Mr. Benning, you recently appeared in couples court and it was confirmed that the defendant cheated on you.
Jermaine stands trembling again before Judge Lakes, sharing stories of the unbreakable bond he has with his little girl.
We are so close. She's goofy, you know, she loves daddy. She's a daddy's baby.
And how the thought of her not being truly his would break his heart.
I have to change her diaper and look at her and play with her, and she's calling me daddy, and there's something in the back of my head saying she might not be.
Although he had doubts, who wouldn't after receiving all these text messages?
You know, there's a text message on my phone saying she's not yours. There's people calling me on my phone saying I'm her dad.
That'll cause paternity doubt 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Ah, but Kayla wants to create peace.
I admit I did cheat, but for certain he's the father.
And in another stunning performance, she produces a DNA test.
I stood up and did the woman and the mother thing I had to do and got the other guy tested.
And the test says that he is 100% not the father.
Probability of paternity is 0%.
Jermaine continues to share what's been creating so much doubt for him.
The DNA test doesn't mean anything. It's in fact that she's cheated on me with more than one person.
He says whenever Kayla gets mad, she throws out digs about him not even being the father of their children.
As soon as we start to argue, you're not her father.
Judge Lakes is handed the envelope containing the DNA result for his daughter.
When it comes to 23-month-old Robin Benning.
As we sit prepared to run a victory lap with Jermaine around the courtroom, we discover
You are not the father.
as we watch Jermaine's worst fear become truth, he vows to remain in the little girl's life.
It doesn't matter, I'm still gonna be there.
Wow. Now that is a real one right there, ladies and gentlemen.
We spent 2 years together. You can't change that. You can't take that away.
We are all now clinging to hope and sanity, knowing full well this pair has another child.
So, Ms. Bodine, for Jermaine Jr., you say you are certain.
There's no doubt in my mind or my heart.
As we wait, Kayla offers us her final performance of the evening.
I don't want to go home and tell my 2-year-old daughter that her father is not going to be there no more.
And she wants us all to know.
I cannot break her heart like that. I can't, and I won't. I'm not the type of person.
Oh my, Kayla.
Well, that one last statement. We're gonna work on you not being that type of person.
As we close on the case of Benning versus Bodine,
It'd be good to know at least one of my kids is mine.
I have switched from wine and popcorn to straight up tequila as I brace myself for what I need to be a happy ending for Jermaine.
When it comes to 6-month-old Jermaine Benning Jr.,
At this point, friends, I have to look away.
you are not the father.
The courtroom explodes. Jermaine is now a mere shell of himself.
I got cribs and playpens and toys, and I've done everything that I do, and
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Benning.
And Kayla,
Do you know who Jermaine Jr.'s father is?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know, keep track of, have an understanding, recollection, memory of the other people you were sleeping with during that time? Because you said
we
no?
were together during that time.
next story. Casey versus Ewing. In an interesting twist, we examine a case of mother versus daughter.
For more than 25 years, your mother has told you that a deceased man who is listed on your birth certificate is your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
LaConda Casey has been told by her mother that her biological father, Otis Hawkins, has been shot and killed.
I called his cousin, and she informed me then that he had been shot in the head by his brother, and he was deceased.
As we pan to the witness stand, we see Richard Edwards, the biological father of one of Ginger's other 9 kids.
Now another man, Mr. Edwards, is claiming he is your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Richard Edwards has come out of the woodworks.
Mr. Edwards had inboxed me. He was like, "You sound like me."
Richard has shown up after finding LaConda on social media to say that his soul is certain she is also his daughter.
I don't even understand how I can tell. It's like the hair stands up on my back. She looks so much like my family. She's got everything that my mom had.
LaConda isn't convinced.
I don't believe so.
She says she never felt a father-daughter connection between she and Edwards.
The bond that I had felt with him, it wasn't there. It wasn't no daughter and father bond that I felt.
Having lost one child recently, coming to this hearing, Mr. Edwards hopes to heal the hurt.
Lost one boy. We ain't losing this one. I'm not losing you.
As a side note,
She has 9 children.
we observe a thick animosity that LaConda has developed for her mom.
My other siblings had their father in their life. Me, it was like a dark hole.
LaConda just wants the truth.
It was real hard on me.
Though she's never laid eyes on the man Ginger says is LaConda's father,
I do not know what the man looks like. I don't have a picture of him.
she is very attached to the idea that the man on her birth certificate is in fact her dad.
I built a bond with Otis Hawkins, who's on my birth certificate, even though he's not ever been in my life. Would anybody would love to meet Jesus? I would love to meet him.
Amid more tears and testimony and reassurances from both Judge Lake and LaConda's mother,
Well, Miss Casey, you've been told that Otis Hawkins, the man you believe to be your father, was dead.
Judge Lake makes a shocking announcement.
He's alive.
It seems Otis Hawkins is very much alive and well, but the icing on the cake.
We found him for you.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Otis Hawkins, the man on LaConda's birth certificate that she has dreamed of for years, walks into that courtroom and takes his daughter in his embrace, filling the space that has been void for nearly all of her life.
Oh my God, that is me.
All this time, not only was he alive, but he had kept her in his thoughts.
I never stopped loving LaConda. I look at this picture every night.
LaConda is filled with tears of joy.
I never got to see you ever in my life. I never got to lay an eye on you or even speak to you.
Mr. Hawkins takes out more photos as LaConda stands shaking and in shock.
Here's a picture right here, Yvonne. I took her to Mississippi for Christmas.
He'd never forgotten about his little girl.
I see you.
But listen, what we all want to know, sir, is where were you, Otis?
I don't know. She said she tried to find me or...
I mean, there were phones. There was the mail.
Cell phone. Everybody got away from house phone.
And who is this cousin of yours that told Ginger you'd been killed?
I don't know, but I know one thing for certain. Didn't nobody in my family put that out.
This observer watches LaConda side-eye her mama.
Did you make up the story about hearing that he had been shot and killed?
No.
Ginger holds firm that she was told Otis was killed.
That's what I was told before I left San Diego to move back to Long Beach.
Okay, girl.
So I think it's time to get the results.
The truth must be revealed, ladies and gentlemen.
Both men have been tested.
And so, in the case of Casey versus Ewings versus Edwards versus Hawkins, Mr. Edwards,
you are not her father.
Not LaConda's father. But wait a minute. It's not over yet.
Pertaining to whether Mr. Hawkins is the father of Ms. Casey.
And as time stands still,
Mr. Hawkins.
Judge Lake reveals that Otis Hawkins is absolutely
not her father.
My lord. Ginger.
Do you know who her father is?
Ginger decides to play pin the tail on the daddy.
His brother.
She slept with Mr. Hawkins' brother.
So you were sleeping with him and his brother
He
at
was
the
gone.
same time?
No, not at the same
But
time.
Mr. Hawkins says, no.
My brother was not out there.
Yes, he was.
He heard through the grapevine Ginger was making groceries with the neighborhood store owner.
I was also told that Ginger was fooling around with the man that ran the store.
I really need a part 2 about this mother-daughter duo.
If you sleep with a man's family member, the man at the store ain't too far-fetched.
Next case, please. Henderson versus Rycraw. William Rycraw believes that he is the biological father of Mercedes Henderson.
Mr. Rycraw, you say you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Miss Henderson is your daughter.
Miss Henderson, who is now 33 years old, says that up until she was 15, she believed that another man, who is also present in the courtroom, Walter Henderson, was her father.
Miss Henderson, you believe Mr. Henderson was your biological father, but at the age of 15, Mr. Rycraw claimed he is your dad.
Also in court, Mercedes' Aunt Sharon, her mother's twin sister.
My niece needs to know who her family really is.
Who is standing by Mr. Rycraw's claim that he is Mercedes' dad.
I just need to know too for sure so we can all move on.
Why would the mom's sister be standing in solidarity with Mr. Rycraw?
My sister, when it comes to telling the truth on certain things, they'll beat around the bush.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it.
I'm just ready.
Mercedes says it's been lonely not knowing who her father is.
It's lonely. My daughter, she tells me all the time, Mom, we're gonna find your dad.
Growing up, she says she was treated differently by her sisters.
I was treated different from my sisters. They used to tell me that I was adopted.
She says they did not look similar.
I know that Walter isn't my dad. I don't look like my sisters.
And one day, she simply asked Mr. Henderson.
Well, I said, Daddy, are you my daddy?
His reply.
He was like, I'm the only daddy you got.
To a child, by the way. She then went to her mom.
Before my mom passed, I was questioning her. Who was my dad?
And her mom gave her the name of another man.
And she gave me this man's name.
Now, Mercedes doesn't want to guess any longer.
I don't know what to believe right now.
She's always been close to Mr. Henderson, but she needs answers either way.
I know that she's saying that he's my father, but I need to know the truth. I want to know. I'm just ready.
Mercedes' Aunt Sharon chimes in.
My sister's resting in her grave.
She says they have both been active in Mercedes' life.
Either way it goes, he's been her father, he's been her father.
With deep gratitude for both men who have come to court.
And we thank the Lord.
Walter Henderson says his wife left for a time to visit her mother.
She left me in California, went to visit her mother in Arkansas.
A few months after returning, one of his daughters came to him and said her mom was pregnant.
When she came back, my other daughter told me that my mom is pregnant.
When Mr. Henderson told his wife he knew she was pregnant, he also gave her an ultimatum.
I talked to her. I told her, if it's a girl, it's ours. It's the boy, you gotta go.
What in the hell to every no dysfunctional kind of nonsense is this?
Are you on the birth certificate?
No.
You are.
I am?
You are.
Oh, I didn't know.
Fast forward to Mercedes meeting Mr. Rycraw.
My aunt called me and she told me to come meet my dad. And when we met and we held each other, it was good.
She said she spoke to her mom shortly after about their meeting.
She said, I don't know why William thinks he's your dad, because the last time I was with him, I was 18.
At this point, Auntie Sharon chimes in that her sister had a little problem with facts versus fiction.
As the old folks tell you in my hometown, under the rug swept that dirt.
Auntie then shares that when Mercedes was 2, she dragged it out of her twin.
I said, you can't lie to me because we twins. Who is her dad?
Who finally admitted to her that William was the daddy.
And she said, William.
But wait, there is another man?
I'm just tired of hearing all these different names.
Mercedes says she got in touch with the man her mother told her was her dad.
It wasn't until I got older that I decided to go and see this man.
She got a DNA test.
I called to get the results, but they didn't give me the results.
But after the testing, the other gentleman told Mercedes he was not her dad.
So he called me and he told me that he wasn't my dad, so I never saw the results.
And things cut off from there.
Did you believe he was your biological father?
That's what my mom told me it was.
In a twist to this tale of 3 men, Judge Lake reveals the court has the results from contestant number 3.
The probability of paternity was determined to be 0.00%. He's not your biological father.
Whew, that's good news, I think. Oh, wow. Wait a minute, y'all.
Someone call the medic, please.
Auntie has passed out in court?
She was so overcome with emotion, she fainted.
She's been wheeled out of court, child.
How are you feeling?
I'm just even more scared.
Why?
What if it's nobody?
Okay, everyone pull yourselves together. We need to get to this, Judge Lake.
Jerome, I'm ready for the results.
Finally, we are ready to hear the results of this case.
It has been determined by this court.
In the case of Henderson versus Rycraw, the court finds when it comes to 33-year-old Mercedes Henderson.
Mr. Henderson, you are not the father.
Not the father. But hold on, friends, not over.
The next result.
And in the case of Henderson versus Rycraw.
Mr. Rycraw, you are not the father.
Not the father.
I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry, Miss Henderson.
Up next, Quiller versus Briggs. Jessica Quiller has come to Judge Lake's courtroom, determined to uncover the truth of who the father of her now 3-year-old daughter, Nora, is.
Today, you say you've brought your daughter's potential grandmother to court in an effort to end your search for her dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
Given that she had already tested 2 other potential fathers, she had a lot riding on these results.
I feel like Nora deserves to know who her father is.
According to Jessica, this was only a one-night stand.
It was one night that I had came home from the club, and it just that particular night the alcohol in me was talking.
She'd met him through his mother, and they were acquaintances at best.
Mr. Johns and I, we were really just friendly. We socialized, but we weren't that close.
Apparently, Jessica had been released from the nest of her parents' home.
I had just got my freedom from my mother. I had just moved into my own apartment.
And she had been getting it in, ladies and gentlemen.
At that point in time in my life, I was very promiscuous. I was partying really hard.
And knowing that her bedtime stories were happening very frequently, Jessica's already been on a testing quest.
I've had 2 other potential fathers tested, and their paternity test came out to be negative.
So far, 2 candidates were reviewed for the potential role of baby daddy.
Mrs. Briggs' son would be my last hope of paternity for my daughter.
Ms. Briggs says her son had no idea that he may have fathered a child with Jessica.
You are Nora's possible grandmother. You claim your son had no idea he may have fathered a child with the plaintiff.
And in fact, her son never told her of any encounters with Jessica.
He never even mentioned having sexual relations with Miss Quiller, nor that she was potentially pregnant with his child.
Mrs. Briggs had known Jessica Jessica for a while, and this news was unexpected.
Yes, I do. She used to sit on my porch and talk to me all the time.
While trying to hold back her tears, she says she's already convinced.
I just knew that she was my granddaughter.
Flooded by emotions, her voice cracked.
I had been dreaming about her for days.
Jessica, also moved to tears, wanted nothing more than for her to know the truth.
I feel like Melissa deserves to know if she has a grandchild or not.
Mrs. Briggs recounted a dream she had shortly after her son had passed.
My son was showing me this little girl in my dreams, and I was like, okay, what does this mean? And a few days later, here she is.
In her heart of hearts, she was convinced.
I just knew that she was my granddaughter.
And whether she's her biological granddaughter or not.
If she's not mine, I still love her.
Now, as to the tragic story of how her son passed away.
My son was killed in a home invasion.
He had been shot twice in the chest.
My son was shot 2 times in his chest with an Afghanistan rifle.
How cruel is this world?
$3 in a pack of cigarettes what they killed my son for.
She actually rushed to the scene.
When I showed up to the house where they killed my son at.
And saw her son's body lifeless on the ground.
His blood was still wet.
She believed this just couldn't be a coincidence.
Electric shock went through my body like it was meant to be.
But the rest of the family disagreed.
She looks nothing like us.
They just couldn't see a similarity.
I don't want her to put her feelings in it and it comes out not to be his child.
It was too late to detach. She was already committed.
They're worried that you're going to fall in love with Nora.
I'm already there. There's nothing they could change about that.
Ms. Quiller admitted she didn't know if there was a fourth potential father.
Are there any other potential fathers?
Not that I can recall, no.
Well, that's promising. Let's just cut to the chase.
I think we're ready for the results.
And so, in the case of Quiller versus Briggs,
Miss Briggs, you are not her grandmother.
No way. The camera pans to a sobbing Melissa Briggs.
So sorry.
She's going to need some time to work through all this. Regardless of the results, they would stick together.
I'll still be there for you if you need me to.
Ms. Briggs has decided and made it clear that despite the results, she wants and needs the connection to remain with Jessica and baby Nora. Up next on the docket, Dandridge versus Sigmund. We meet Cassandra Dandridge in the courtroom.
Miss Dandridge, you say you are here to determine if you finally found your biological father.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dandridge wants to determine if the man waiting outside is in fact her long-lost father.
You claim you were recently given the name of someone you believe is that man, though you've never laid eyes on him before.
Ms. Dandridge is sobbing.
I know this is emotional for you.
This will be the first time she meets this man.
You've never known who your biological father was growing up?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Up until the age of 12, she believed another man was her father.
I was raised to believe that my sister's dad was my dad. I was old enough to know how to read, and I found adoption papers stating that my dad wasn't my dad.
Once she found out the truth,
I tried to ask my mom, and she was never forthcoming.
Her mom insisted that her biological father was a deadbeat.
I don't know who your dad is, or he didn't want you. She was just mean to me.
But Miss Dandridge persisted.
Roughly 3 months ago, I posted on Facebook, "This status may hurt some people's feelings, but I really want to know who my dad is."
To the point that her mom gave her a name.
She got on there and told me that I was a liar and that I never asked who my dad was and just threw his name at me.
And then sent her packing.
She told me to never contact her again.
Once her mom gave her a name, Miss Dandridge took to Facebook.
And that name was Joseph Lester Sigmund.
And she created a page.
I made a Facebook page called Finding Joseph Lester Sigmund.
It worked.
In the first week, I had 300 followers message me names or family members that could have been related to Joseph Sigmund.
One message from a stranger piqued her interest.
And she says, "Here, I found his mom and his brother. You should call them."
Miss Dandridge called the mom and brother.
First, I called the mom, and she tells me that I'm looking for the wrong Joe. And the brother told me the same thing.
A few days later, a Joseph Sigmund contacted her.
The man answers the phone and says, "Is there a young lady looking for a Joe Sigmund?" I say, "Yes, sir, that's me."
And after a few questions and describing Ms. Dandridge's mom,
he describes her what she looks like down to a T.
Really?
Yeah.
The two believed they had a match.
Are you ready to meet him for the first time?
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. Mr. Sigmund enters the chambers. Ms. Dandridge burst into uncontrollable tears and the two embrace. Joseph Sigmund soon begins to shed tears of his own.
We spent a lot together, beach life, we traveled.
As he begins to explain the summer of love he shared with Ms. Dandridge's mother.
We had sex on the beach, sex in the pools.
TMI quickly comes to mind.
I don't know if her daughter
needed to hear all that.
Mr. Sigmund and Ms. Dandridge's mom had plans to make a life together.
We had actually talked about marriage one time.
But Mr. Sigmund's bad boy lifestyle put a dent in the plans.
Got trouble with the law down there. I made some bad choices. I got kicked out of the state of Florida.
He was kicked out of the state of Florida, and the two go their separate ways.
Knowing that I was sterile, I knew it wasn't any reason to go back.
Mr. Sigmund says he has believed all of this time he was sterile.
I have doubts because I was told I was sterile.
He says he had no idea Ms. Dandridge's mom was pregnant.
Sometimes during the weekends, she went to her mother's on the weekends. She could have been with other guys.
Mr. Sigmund has his reservations, but he calls Ms. Dandridge his new hope.
I've never had nothing my whole life. I've never been married. I didn't have kids. Now she's my new hope.
These two really want and need for this to work.
She's got my cheekbones, my jaw face, got my eyes. Plus I can feel it.
You feel it?
There's no doubt.
Fingers crossed.
I need this. I have a hole in my chest and I need this.
Judge Lakes decides to get right to it with the results.
I know this will be very emotional for you both either way.
Cassandra is overwhelmed and decides to take a seat, praying that her long-held wish would now come to life.
In the case of Dandridge versus Sigmund,
here we go.
Mr. Sigmund, you are not her father.
Wow. As Dandridge begins to hyperventilate in the courtroom.
Sit her down, Mr. Sigmund.
Joseph Sigmund steps up to comfort her.
You're supposed to be my dad. I'm never gonna know.
Honey, oh my goodness.
Judge Lake offers parting words of encouragement from Ms. Dandridge.
Ms. Dandridge, you can look at it as thinking it was the end, or you can look at it as the beginning.
Whose search for the truth continues. Up next, Jacobs versus Walker. Aisha Jacobs lost her father on her 14th birthday.
Ms. Jacobs, you claim that your world was shattered just after your 14th birthday when your dad suddenly up and disappeared.
Yes, Your Honor.
No, he did not die. William Walker left.
Today you say you've brought him to our courtroom to demand answers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Walker says he heard his ex-wife and her mother having a heated conversation about his paternity and whether he was the father of her children.
On her 14th birthday, Your Honor, I heard an argument inside the house. So I go in to see what's going on, and she was screaming at her mother like, well, you know there's a chance they're not his kids. And I don't know how to tell him, but I had done slipped in and was standing right behind her and overheard all of it.
Mr. Walker says he did confront Aisha's mom.
I asked her, I said, why? Why would you do it now, 14 years later, at her party?
But instead of trying to work it out, Aisha says she saw her dad walk out of the party.
I didn't understand what was going on at all.
And she never saw him again.
After that, we ended up being put in foster care.
Aisha was struggling emotionally with all of the chaos in her home, even prior to the birthday.
So had you heard rumors about her cheating?
I seen it myself.
When Aisha was 5 years old, she even caught her mom cheating with one of Mr. Walker's family members.
My dad was at work. A family member of mine came over to the house. They ended up taking a shower together.
For Mr. Walker, there had been one too many accusations of cheating.
As soon as my dad got home from work, I let my dad know. She told him that I was lying, I was making up stories.
And having also caught Aisha's mom in the act.
One time she told me she was going to go visit her mother, and I called her a few hours later at her mother's house. She's like, well, no, she ain't been here all day. I said, she's supposed to be at your house.
Mr. Walker was fed up.
And when I got to the house, I knocked on the door. They were all drinking. It was just her and 5 other guys.
From there, divorce ensued.
The only thing she wanted in the divorce was the property and the contents of the house. And I said, give me my kids. You can have everything, anything you want.
And Mr. Walker says he was fighting for his children.
I love my children. My children are my world.
Children who may not even be his.
Biologically or not, Your Honor, these are always my children.
As time went on, Aisha's mother became more and more detrimental to her children.
The entire time my mom was telling me that he abandoned me and he didn't want me anymore.
That's a lie, Your Honor. Her mother did nothing but feed all my children lies.
Eventually, she and her siblings were taken and moved into the foster care system.
I was a big daddy's girl growing up, so I started to feel abandoned, like he just ran off and left me.
She even wrote her dad a letter.
Why did you ever leave me? Why did you abandon us?
pleading for him to return so their lives could also return to some normalcy.
I don't understand why you moved to Ohio and had to leave us behind. You were my hero and every girl needs a hero. Don't you want us anymore?
Fast forward to a 16-year-old Aisha who became pregnant on purpose.
It was really hard. I actually ended up getting pregnant when I was 16 just to be emancipated.
Now that's what we call a desperate measure.
So you got pregnant on purpose?
Yes, Your Honor.
In another interesting twist, we have another man who was told he was infertile.
All my doubts together goes all the way back to in my childhood. They told me back in those younger years I had the mumps.
It seems an actual family physician told Mr. Walker because of having had the mumps, he would never be able to have children.
Back then they believed if you had the mumps as a male, if they dropped, then you would be sterile.
Even still, Mr. Walker says he found no reason to doubt Aisha's mother's pregnancies.
You know, I never questioned her. I never called her a cheater. I never asked her, hey, are you sure that's my kid?
He said finding out she was pregnant was the best feeling in the world.
It's the best thing in the world to feel after being told all your life you're never going to have no kids.
But after repeated incidents of cheating, she left him no choice but to walk away from the marriage.
Even before her and I got married, my family would come to me and say, hey, we lived in a mobile home. He'd say he'd walk around and hear him in there having sexual relations.
Mr. Walker was simply exhausted.
Years later on down the road, her mother did admit to sleeping with several of my family members.
He said he was fighting behind the scenes for his family.
I got paperwork on top of paperwork to show them when they came to me asking me for results. I've done nothing but fight for these kids, Your Honor.
Losing his job after Aisha's mom repeatedly sabotaged him in the workplace.
Because she kept calling my work and telling them that I was on drugs. Me being a truck driver, I had to go do drug testing at the company's expense.
Calling his employer and accusing him of being on drugs.
They let me go after the 8th time because they no longer could afford to keep sending me for the drug test that kept coming back negative.
He quietly walked away, praying that things would eventually turn around.
Well, he did show me all the paperwork and everything like that. I felt like the most horriblest daughter on the face of the earth. I felt like I didn't deserve to be around my dad at that point in time.
He says in spite of not being there, he always loved his children.
I knew she felt pain, Your Honor. So when she told me I was the most horrible parent she had ever met in her life, I didn't hold that to heart. I loved my children. I gave them all the love I could ever give them.
And so, once again, here we are.
I think it's time for the results.
In the case of Jacobs versus Walker,
when it comes to the paternity of Miss Aisha Jacobs, Mr. Walker,
the court finds that William Walker,
you are Aisha's father.
One time for moving forward with truth and a brighter future for all involved. Next on the docket, Kyles versus Light. We have another case where the father of the child whose paternity is in question is deceased.
Miss Kyles, you have opened your case to prove to the defendant that her deceased son, James, is your 14-month-old daughter, Ava's biological father.
Ania says she understands that James's mom is in pain after losing her child, that she too is suffering from the loss.
Miss Light isn't the only one that's hurt. I'm hurt too. That's my child's father.
As for Miss Light, she's not buying it.
You say Miss Kyles is a pathological liar. You don't trust that baby Ava belongs to him. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Even if Ania says she and James planned for the family they briefly share together.
Me and him was together. I loved him. He loved me. We were his family.
Unlike our last case, Ms. Light has in fact formed a bond with the child.
That's my heart. If she wasn't with my son, she was with me.
But it has not curbed the gnawing feeling inside of her that something is not right.
He came to me so many times. Hurt. It's killing me.
Miss Light reveals that after a pregnant Ania moved to Oklahoma,
another man answered the phone and tried to claim to be Ava's father and be in her life now.
Ania says that's a lie.
Me and James never had any fights or argument about any females, any males.
And so why would he make this up?
It was after that time when things got messy.
Because he was mad because I wasn't letting him around me.
We then find out that James was kicked out of the house.
I said, you can't come in. Lock my door. He kept calling my phone. I'm sorry, babe.
Ania says it was because James did not respect the boundaries of the household.
I don't like everybody in my house. He brought some other guy with him to my house.
Fast forward, Ania delivers the baby.
Did you call him to say the baby's being born?
No, Your Honor.
He would have been there.
And then, y'all ready for this?
I decided to give Ava away to a family member.
She gave the baby away.
She took her and she named Ava Skylar.
A week later, Ania changed her mind.
A week later, I wanted my baby back.
The family member was not having it.
She didn't want to give her to me.
But Ania's mom was thankfully able to get the baby.
I had to call my mother to get her back.
Taking her to Miss Light's home, where James had been living since being kicked out.
She didn't respond to my text messages. She didn't respond to my effort. She didn't have to get that baby away because that baby would have been well taken care of.
Brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen.
He was a good father. He did everything for his baby.
This story is about to rip your soul in two.
She was with her father when he passed away.
It seems at the time of James's murder, baby Skylar was in the back seat of his car.
All I know is something happened. Some girls arguing and another guy came and shot my son. And they kept shooting, so I don't know what stopped the bullet hole from hitting my grandbaby other than God.
Devastating, ladies and gentlemen.
Because it was a bullet hole that either the door or her car seat stopped it from hitting her.
As mother and grandmother come to a space where they both agree that life is short.
I'd have lost the daughter, I'd have lost the son. I can't lose nobody else.
And Skylar Ava must be their prime source and focus over ego and pain.
She needs us, and this is not how James would want it to be.
It's not.
Judge Lake prepares to bring closure, for better or worse, to these three valuable human lives.
I think it's time we get the results. Jerome?
Please, send us a happy ending.
I want this to be my grandbaby and get this done and over with.
And so, in the case of Kyle's versus Lights,
the percentage of relatedness is 99%. You are related.
Yes, thank you.
I'm very happy I could deliver this result today.
Thank you.
Very happy.
This is a win for all involved, especially Ava. I'm Trei Taylor. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never have to miss out on new videos. Until next time, bye for now.